Hey, YouTube folks, welcome to another video. And in today's video, what are we going to see here? It's a historic match played between Bob Fischer and Mikhail Tal. This match right here. It was played in 1959 during the Candidates Tournament, and it was one of the craziest games played between these two players. There's even a pretty famous video of these two legends of world chess where Mikhail Tal is playing black, okay? And he makes a joke on the first move of the game, making it look like he's going to play c6. But right after that, he pushes the pawn once more to c5, forcing a slight smile from Bobby Fischer. This video that's playing here on the screen for you to see, okay? It's not from the game we're going to watch today, all right? Anyway, it's very interesting. So, let's watch today's game, which, in honor of this video, will be titled The Power of the Smile. Mikhail Tal. So, without further ado, let's get straight to today's game. Now. So, guys, here we are. And with the white pieces was Bob Fischer against Mikhail Tal. And Bob Fischer opens the game here with the move e4 king's pawn, and Mikhail Tal plays a defense, Sicilian. After knight f3, d6, d4, they play the open Sicilian. Knight f6, knight c3, then a6 entering the Najdorf variation, chosen by Mikhail Tal. Bobby Fischer plays bishop to c4 here, his favorite move as white in the Sicilian, always placing the bishop on this diagonal. And here, Tal plays e6, the game continues with bishop to b3, b5. And now, a very interesting idea chosen by Bobby Fischer, a sharp idea. Both are sharp players here, right? f4 Bobby Fischer played here, which allows for a very tactical continuation, and we know that Mikhail Tal is a tactical player, a player who likes sharp positions. He goes straight for this line, playing here with b4. The idea behind this move is to drive away the knight that's defending the pawn on e4 so that black can win a pawn. Tal played this line, so b4 knight to a4, and here Mikhail Tal took the pawn on e4. But hold on, nothing is that easy in life. Even here, with black winning a pawn in this line, the position is going to get very sharp. White has a lot of compensation, and here we're playing as white. Bob Fischer is playing as white, right? The game then continues with short castling by Bob Fischer. Tal plays g6 to fianchetto his bishop. In this position, Bob Fischer makes his move. A breakthrough move? 5. It's a very sharp move, a very tactical move by Mikhail Tal in this position. He enters the mess and captures f5 with the g-pawn. And now, Bobby Fischer's idea will become very clear after knight takes foot 5. Bobby Fischer's on the board here, entering a tactical line. Okay. Tal. He didn't take this knight here because if he takes this knight, he ends up entering a very dangerous line where he's going to lose material. What if Mikhail Tal had taken the knight? The continuation for white here, white's idea is to play queen to d5, and notice that queen to d5, it attacks the rook on a8 and threatens the f7 pawn, creating mating chances. But of course, there is a defense here for black. You can play rook to a7, which defends the rook and also stops the mate. But here, white has another very strong move, which will now win material, and that would be queen to d4. Now the queen is attacking two very valuable black pieces, and there's no way to defend everything, okay? So because of that, black can't take that knight on e5. Tal saw these continuations, and in this position, he didn't take the knight. He played rook to g8, a very deep move. As we just saw in this tactical line, Tal's idea is to defend one of the rooks so they don't remain unprotected. I'll make a move for white as an example. For example, if white plays any random move here, like h3 now, black can take the knight, because after queen to d5, I attack the rook and threaten mate, so rook to a7 defends, and now there's no more queen to d4 attacking the rook on h8. Why? Because Tal already played rook to g8, so Mikhail Tal was way ahead. Here, he saw all the themes, and then played in this position very precisely, rook to g8 defending the rook. Bobby Fischer here, of course, is going to keep pressing in this position, right? Bobby Fischer then played with the bishop. d5, a very creative move, attacks 2 with a single play. Bobby Fischer has 2 pieces under threat. He put himself in the pawn fork here, right? Tal continued with rook to a7, okay? If he took here again, he'd enter a sharp line. But he didn't take, right? Would there be a queen? With queen to d5, I attack the rook. I attack the knight again, the double attack theme. Black could take here, bishop takes on f5, but after rook takes on f5, there's this threat here to the rook and the knight. And here, black's position is going to end up getting really bad, okay? So, Tal didn't go into this line after bishop to d5 played by Bobby Fischer. Real counterattack, right? An attack from each side. Tal here played rook to a7, simply defending the rook. The game goes on with bishop takes e4, so Bobby Fischer recovers here, right? He wins a piece then. Tal captures the knight on f5, then bishop takes f5, and rook moves to e7. Tal protects the file here now, right? So that there aren't any direct tactical threats against the black king that's in the middle of the board. That's Mikhail Tal's king, not Ivanchuk's. In this game with Bob Fischer, bishop takes c8, queen takes c8, then bishop moves to f. And this is a very tense moment in the game, okay? Bob Fischer is playing with the pieces are active. There's a threat at d6, and Tal must find the key moves now. And he plays, as always, very, very aggressively. The move queen to c6, which targets the g2 square here, has a checkmate idea on g2, right? And it's also attacking the knight on a4, so it's a double attack played by Tal. And Bobby Fischer, here, he plays one of the strongest moves in the position, which is queen to f3, defending against the checkmate idea and allowing the capture of the knight on a4. And let's see now, because they're going into chaos and craziness. Queen takes a4, Mikhail Tal wins a piece. Bobby Fischer plays bishop to d6, a very strong move. It also introduces a double attack. It attacks the rook on e7 and the knight on b8 and the black pieces. There's no way to properly defend both pieces, because the rook also always has to keep an eye on the f7 square, since there's a very strong pressure here from the queen and the rook, putting pressure on the f7 point. So Mikhail Tal, in this position, brings the queen back to f6, offering the exchange of queens. And Bobby Fischer here recovers the material, playing bishop b8 took the knight. Recovered the material, but Mikhail Tal always has a trick up his sleeve. He plays queen b6, launching another double attack to capture the bishop on b8. Bobby Fischer plays king h1, then queen takes b8. Tal managed to win a piece from Fischer in this position. Of course, white has a lot of compensation because black's king is in the center. And that makes all the difference in the world, right? The game continues then with queen c6 played by Bobby Fischer, directly exploiting the theme of the centralized king. The game. Mikhail Tal plays here with rook d7 to cover the check, then rook from a to e1, Bobby Fischer brings the rook to attack the king, then bishop e7, almost forced. And Bobby Fischer in this position plays another attacking move, wanting to expose Mikhail Tal's king even more. Here, Bobby Fischer played rook takes f7 to lure the king away from defending the d7 rook. And also winning a pawn here, right? Taking another pawn for the piece he ended up losing. In this position, Tal captured the rook. The game continues with queen to e6, a sharp move, right? Bobby Fischer doesn't take the rook right away, and he creates new threats here. If the king returns to e8 to defend the rook, he'll lose immediately. Because the rook on g8 is falling, right? But that didn't happen in the game. But this move actually allows checkmates. Checkmates with tomatoes. Since the queen is at g8, you can't move the king to e8, so what did Mikhail Tal do? He moved his king to f8 to protect the g8 rook. Now, Bobby Fischer can capture the rook. That's exactly what he did. Queen takes d7. It's a tense position since Bobby Fischer is down a piece. The game continues. Queen to d6 now. Tal wants to simplify, right? He wants to trade queens to play this endgame with an extra piece. Bobby Fischer here refuses the queen trade. Queen to b7, rook to g6 played by Tal, c3. Bobby Fischer here is trying to simplify the pawns a little bit, right? Because that's one of the biggest chances he has to lose this game. It's Mikhail Tal promoting a pawn since he has an extra piece and can support its advance, right? a5 played by Tal. The game continues with queen to c8, king to g7, and now queen to c4, keeping the tension in position A. At this moment, Mikhail Tal plays bishop to d8, protecting the little pawn on a5. But I don't think that's the most direct idea. He might be having attacking ideas as well, because it's Mikhail Tal playing with the black pieces. C captures b4, A captures b4, and now Bob Fischer plays g3 to continue. A bit of a risky move, right? Because it allows for a forcing sequence here, a forced queen exchange. With queen to c6, Bob Fischer lasted a bit longer and didn't exchange queens immediately. He played rook to e4, queen takes c4 Tal, then exchanges queens. Rook takes c4, then rook to b6. And we enter this endgame, which is very tense, very complicated, okay? Because now black has an extra piece, 2 pawns, but white has 4 pawns. And a theme comes up here. If white manages to exchange either of these 2 pawns for this pawn on b4 black, we'll end up with only 1 pawn here against 2 on the king's side. And this game will probably end in a draw. It's very hard for black to win this game, but let's see how Tal will try to create problems for him. Bob Fischer, after rook to b6, the game continues with king to g2. They're going to start centralizing the kings. King to f3, king to e5, king to e3. And now the kings are going to try to support, right? And prevent the opponent's king from invading each other's position too much. The game continues with bishop to g5, then king to e2, king to d5. He attacked the rook. The rook is defended here by king to d3. And now bishop to f5, bishop to f6 was played by Tal. He begins attacking his queenside pawns, aiming to win and promote one there. The only pawn is on b4. The game continues. Rook to c2, bishop to e5, rook to e2, rook to f6, rook to c2. They make a few moves here, rook to f3. Tal attacks, drives Bobby Fischer's king to e2, moves the rook to f7 and the king to d3. Fischer keeps resisting, right? Stopping the black king's invasion. So bishop to d4 was played by Tal, and now a3 Bobby Fischer's idea is clear. He wants Tal to take on a3, pawn takes a3, and be left with just the pawn there on the king's side, which might not be enough to win the game. But Mikhail Tal didn't take the pawn on a3. He played b3. Poking at the rook on c2, the rook goes to c8, and now bishop takes b2. Mikhail Tal captures the b2 pawn, leaving a pawn down. Now, this pawn is a passed pawn, correct? You must be careful. Bobby Fischer notices the pawn on a light square and will attack directly, starting with a check. And after king c6, here comes rook b8 trying to take the pawn, because if this pawn falls, the game is possibly a draw. So Tal is going to try to defend this pawn like there's no tomorrow. Rook f3 was played, king c4, then rook c3. This way, the king blocks the rook's attack on the pawn at b3. The king has to come to the b4 square. And now, the king alone can't take this pawn since it's defended by the rook, right? So the game continues here with the king. c7 attacked Bob Fischer's rook. Rook to b5, then bishop moved. a1 with a very clear idea of playing b2 and then b1 promoting the pawn. So, in this position, Bob Fischer played a4, and after b2, Bob Fischer resigned this game. There's no way to stop this little pawn of Mikhail Tal here, and he's going to end up promoting. So, a very interesting game, very sharp, right? 2 very tactical, very dynamic players. A really cool game that couldn't be missing here on the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Oh, and of course, as always, here's the game report that you guys always ask me for, right? You can now see the accuracy of these 2 world chess legends. Bob Fischer played with very high accuracy here, 94.6, and Mikhail Tal played like an engine, 98.8 accuracy. Incredible, that. So a really high-level match here, right? And as you saw, very dynamic, very tactical, with very, very high precision. And so, guys, I hope you enjoyed this match. If you want more games from Mikhail Tal, then leave it here in the comments. And see you in the next videos, guys.